listen, I'm fine. Everything's fine here.
Everything's fine.
We're fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
Everything's great.
Hello.
Good evening.
Welcome to CHMA Broadcasting from Sackville, New Brunswick, Canada. You are listening either on 106.9 FM in the Tantramar area or at www.chmafm.com.
Which is on the internet.
It is.
Which had a rough week.
Man, it did have a rough week. And it's like, it's not quite back at the top, right?
No,
like,
and it's been a minute. It's been
a week?
Like right now it's been a week, but when you're listening at home, it's been a week and a half.
Yes.
And the internet is not back to its former self. It just, the internet doesn't bounce back like when it was young.
No, none of us do.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel for the internet.
Yeah, 100%. Like, we're, the internet's not that much older than I am.
No.
And, like, yeah, my back's been hurting for a week.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking about doing Mo Mondays. Well, I haven't finished. I haven't got my Mo Monday in this week. I'm sure you've noticed. You drive by on your way to the
airport. Yeah.
I hurt my back, and then
could you just borrow a couple of cows that we use to keep like the grass short between the runways out there and take one of those home?
Borrow the truck though, and I don't really want.
Oh yeah, how would we haul the luggage around? It's. You're right.
Anyway,
a goat would be easier.
This is ground control at YMC Midgic Airport. You are joining myself, air traffic controller Thomas.
And me, air traffic controller Luke.
Join us for the next hour as we watch the skies, listen to some tunes, chat, and we will be done by and by. So, Luke, our weekly weather discussion.
Yeah, it's been hot. The grass is growing. Mine, like yours, is in need of some attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the weather changing. I am glad that like we've had some rain.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the New Brunswick fire map, like we're doing fine.
Yes,
and particularly when you listen into like news programs and hear about like the horrible fires they're having out west again, it's like, you know what, our weather. It's I'm not going to predict it, but I'm also pretty thankful for the summer we've had so far.
Super fair, and just where we live in general.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Very, very good summers. Like I will complain about the humidity.
As one does.
Yes, but my goodness, yes, we are lucky here. So the weather, I don't know, but we're lucky.
Yeah. I had someone into my other job that I do. I'm not here, full time, as you know, and in my other profession. Someone came in and they were haying that day, and they said, they needed something, and it was just needed 3 more hours. So then I was really invested, surprisingly so, for the next 3 hours, like watching. Is it raining? You know, did they get it?
Yeah, And did they?
I think they would have, because there were like a couple little sprinkles, but not enough to shut haying down. I was like,
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was, but I'm glad they probably got their hay.
I'm not gonna drop them. Sufficient to say, a local farmer.
Totally, yeah.
And who doesn't want local farmers to do well?
Exactly. Amen to that. And you know what? We're gonna play a tune.
All right.
Yeah, little jaunt. We're going to go for a little jaunt.
We're getting a jaunt factor. Is the jaunt in our Venn diagram?
The jaunt is not in the Venn diagram yet. I think it's going to have to be put in it, though.
And it's getting to be a lot of bubbles in the Venn diagram. Because
what we got, like 6.
We got jaunt, we got banger.
Yeah.
We got slap.
Yeah, it's slap. A jam.
A jam.
A vibe.
A vibe. Whew.
Yeah.
I tell you.
Someone needs to write these down.
Yeah, maybe we'll get someone does all those signs for the airport.
Yeah,
the marketing department.
Yeah,
we'll put them on it.
Totally. Oh, totally. But yeah, we're gonna give you a little jaunt.
Play me some jaunt.
Yeah.
Give me a reason why you're always out of time. You're like the seasons that always pass me by. Give me a reason, baby. Give me a reason now. Came around, said you needed me for life, but you come around and you push me to the side. Give me a reason, baby. Give me a reason now. Ooh, 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 ooh.
jaunty little tune.
The ukulele and voice combo. Like, you don't need to be overly complex, especially in a jaunt.
It's true, yeah. Yeah, you don't need a lot to make a really good song.
And sometimes a really catchy song.
Like some of that, like We Will Rock You, one of the most catchy songs in the world, and it's nothing.
Are you telling me that's not overly complex?
It's not.
Like, I don't know. I wouldn't have caught it, but where are you dropping that into the Venn diagram?
Oh, that's a jam.
And a banger, and it slaps?
Yeah.
Whew. It's a lot of overlapping.
Yeah, it's real. It hits a lot of things. That's why it's so good. It hits a lot of things.
There you go.
And it hits them well. Hey, do you know what? Talking about hitting well, we're going to talk about a little sport.
Oh, is it a sport that involves hitting?
It is. It's actually the sport.
Boxing.
Close. The sport of kings. We've talked about it before. Professional wrestling.
I thought we were going to talk about chess again.
No.
Different kings.
Different kings, yes.
It's been a while since you brought a chess update.
It has. Hey, you know what? There are chess updates, and I can bring them to you. But today we got a little.
All right, talk to me about professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's a little sad update.
Oh,
but also a celebration. It's a celebration of life in that Tantramar's own Dorchester's Leo Burke passed away today. Like
this being recorded Wednesday,
being recorded Thursday.
Thursday, you're correct.
Yes. The news came out this morning that Leo Burke passed away. 76, I believe he was. Which is, I would say, a fair age. But for a professional wrestler, that is a very old age.
I suppose it would be a profession that is quite taxing physically.
Very taxing physically, and most people at this point have heard kind of like the seedy underground, just underneath the surface of professional wrestling. And, when you mix a cocktail of a lifestyle with
repeated head trauma
and using substances, either legally or otherwise, to help your injuries. A lot of professional wrestlers have passed very early.
Yeah.
Leo Burke lived a full life. And it's funny when we talk about Leo Burke specifically, because he, in professional wrestling, the time is like so small where someone can be like a superstar.
Okay.
That it's kind of like, generations of like ants. Like, of course, how many generations?
Lot of. I mean, this is going to sound bad. Like, I was like thinking flash in the pans, but
yeah,
it's like akin to maybe pop music, like a lot of one-hit wonders.
And there's a few, Hulk Hogan's.
Sure.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Sure.
Bret
the Hitman Hart?
Bret the Hitman Hart would be the most famous Canadian.
I knew a thing!
Bret the Hitman Hart. So there's a few that transcend wrestling into...
Oh, I know one more.
Street. Yeah.
I know the Undertaker.
Undertaker, yeah. One Jonathan Cena, you've likely heard of.
Yes. Yeah, he's been in a motion picture.
Yes,
too.
as have Batista. He's like Drax the Destroyer and like Marvel stuff.
Oh, the super jacked guy?
Yeah.
Is that like what he did before?
Yeah, he's a professional wrestler.
Oh, I find his character like quite entertaining as someone who has a dry sense of humor.
He's just being a professional wrestler in the
I suppose
movies.
you'd have some acting experience doing that.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And like I guess like the Kurgan was rub out my like he went into acting a bunch.
Kurgan, yes.
So
a lot of professional wrestlers go back and forth.
Yeah.
And bodybuilders. Right. It's kind of like a triangle. But Leo Burke was in his prime so long ago that a lot of the professional wrestling world has passed him by. He hasn't been a big name on the national scene since the early 80s.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about the time of some big names, some you might recognize, like Harley Race, Ric Flair.
I know of Ric Flair from
Dusty
pop
Rhodes,
culture references.
Dusty Rhodes. Leo Burke predates them.
Oh, wow.
Leo Burke was an 8-time Stampede Wrestling North American champion, which for about 20 years was the biggest prize in Canada.
Oh, wow.
He held many, many championships, all of them here in Atlantic Canada, where there used to be many promotions.
Yeah. It's funny because like a gentleman I used to work with who'd be, I would give him maybe, let's say he's in his maybe very early 50s. He's not tremendously older than me, but like there's certainly enough to be a generation. And he talks about it like as a kid, another St. John or as yourself being like, yeah, we used to go like Thursday nights used to be the B show, and then like Saturday night you'd go to the main show and you'd get the rotation and you'd see these guys. And because I remember we stopped one time, we were traveling back from Halifax for work, and we stopped, outside of Truro, not Masstown, but something down this way, a little bit country restaurant in one of the towns. And he was like, man, this has been here so long. I remember stopping here with my father in the late 80s. And like, he's like, I looked over and there's like the Cuban Assassin and they're sitting at a table.
Yeah.
And he was like, as a pretty young guy who just like had been just starting to going, like seeing these guys who like the night before were bitter enemies, just sitting having lunch. He was like, completely changed my view of the world. Yeah. And I remember asking him, I was like, did you still go and see it after that? Or was like the magic. You let it cat's out of the bag, the illusion's over. And he's like, no, I loved it so much.
I loved it even more.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, like when it clicked for me, I started to love it even more. And it's actually the thing that interests me probably the most about professional wrestling now is the backstage stuff. It's the people. It's these stories that I'm telling right now. Yeah, and it's funny you talked about the Cuban Assassin. Do you know who almost certainly was sitting across from him? It would have been Leo Burke.
More than likely. That probably merits a phone call to my former coworker to be like, hey, because I bet he'd have a, more than likely he was in the story. I remember the Cuban Assassin because that was the only one that kind of like
when you hear the Cuban Assassin, that kind of stays.
But he named everyone that was at that table, because he was invested at the time, and it's obviously stuck with him. A pretty formative thing. So
Leo Burke, I'm not going to go over his entire career.
Sure.
I could, I'm not going to, but since you brought up the Cuban Assassin, he is both his longest rival. And also, near the end of his career, one of his final tag team partners, and won quite a few championships with the Cuban Assassin.
Really?
As a tag team at the end of their careers after they had a very long and storied rivalry. But Leo Burke, to kind of bring it into something that our generation might know, there is one Canadian wrestler that caught his eye. His name was Bret Hart.
Huh.
And Leo Burke, Bret says in a few books how incredible of a wrestler Leo Burke was. Leo would have been older than Bret.
Yeah.
Leo would have been one of the wrestlers that would have taught Bret Hart. And after he retired in the early 90s, Leo Burke, Bret Hart got him a job because he knew how good of a trainer he was because he trained him.
Right.
He got him to work as a trainer at WWF at the time for about 20 years.
Wow.
It wasn't until he got sepsis from something that he was like, okay, I really had to retire.
I have to step back.
But for 20 years, and he was like the main trainer for some massive Canadian stars like Edge and Christian, who are still wrestling today, and other very big Canadian wrestling stars of the time, like Andrew Martin, who went by Test, former gold medalist Mark Henry, who was a power lifter, Leo Burke, and everyone I just mentioned is a former WWE champion.
Huh.
I'm only mentioning the cream
again,
of the crop.
To walk it back and saying how like you love the background on it.
Yeah,
this guy is probably has his fingerprints all over modern wrestling.
He does.
Yeah.
And he's from
Dorchester.
Tantramar. Like he's from Dorchester.
Huh. That's pretty wild.
And people, people didn't know, and people don't know, and Leo Burke's impression on wrestling will never go away. That's kind of how big of a hand he had, not only as a performer, but even more so as a trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And just like an incredible man, an incredible story.
Wow.
And an incredible part of our community. And I am glad that even though it took his passing, I'm seeing a lot of outpouring from our community, like not the wrestling community, like our actual community of Tantramar right now, to the family, and to his legacy. And that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
cool people doing cool things.
Yeah, from the local area, which is, I always,
what?
It's always cool that, like, I mean, truth be told, take a step back from our region, right? And I mean, neither of us are originally from this particular area. But I mean, step back from the Maritimes as a whole, and you look at arts, you look at music, you look at entertainment. You look at any of these things, and we're a fairly large area. I mean, we're as bigger than a lot of European countries.
Yes,
we have
New Brunswick is. Yes,
we have very, very low population. Like, what are we, 1.5 million in the Maritimes or something? Like, it's. I don't think we've hit 2 million yet. And you just hear stuff like this, and I hear all kinds of stuff, and you pick things up, and it's like, man, we're like world-class people come out of the Maritimes.
Yes.
And like every time you hear it, you kind of think like just like punching above our weight as an area, like as a region.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Like I know, and I've talked to other people from outside of Canada, and you talk music, and they're like, man, the Atlantic Canadian music scene is
we're punching way above our weight.
And it's like, I mean, and I mean, we you grew up in St. John. I grew up, full disclosure, around the Rexton area.
Yes.
It was like an hour and a bit north of here, but in a rural area. And it's like, you heard these things, you heard these bands, you heard of these performers, and they were great and good enough that you'd listen. And like, you don't realize there's areas that don't have that.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. Like I say, it's that I was listening to someone else on the radio the other night, and they were they grew up actually in rural Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a different industry than we are in air traffic control.
Sure.
He was saying that, like, for them, and his particular subset of media production, he was like, Australia's just killing it, and he's talking about these people, and I was like, we're like, that's here, man.
Yeah.
We've got super low population.
Mm-hmm.
We're fairly remote in the grand scheme of, North America.
Totally.
And we just produce a lot of very, very talented, or alternatively very, very hardworking people.
Yes. Yeah, fair.
That just go out to make their way and succeed. And I know there's some that don't, but it's...
Sure, totally.
Still pretty wild.
It's as a musician, as I've mentioned on here before.
Yep.
I have worked with a lot of musicians, and I've worked with some musicians that have a ton of exposure, and they deserve it. And I'm not saying they don't.
Sure.
And I've worked with some musicians that have very, very little exposure. And both of them are like, both spectrums are wildly talented.
Yeah.
Like, I've been in rooms with some of my friends where it's like, the concentration of incredible musical talent in the room is like
super high,
super high. And we're just like sitting there playing video games. You know what I mean?
No, it's cool. I mean, the circles I travel in for fun are generally, racing or mechanical and it's like anything, right? You don't get you don't get better by surrounding yourself with amateurs. You get better by surrounding yourself with experts.
Yeah.
And just like you have with music, I've had the experience of being in with people who are so good at what they do that you could drop them anywhere in the country or on the continent or in the world, and they'd be like, yep, hit the ground running, because they're just, they've put in the work. They're, if you're a Gladwell fan, they got their 10,000 hours.
I was about to say, and when you have 10,000 hours a few times over, which some people do on some things, I love the 10,000 hours. It's not a perfect science.
No, it really isn't. But it's a rule that people have adopted because it has some merit. Right?
100%. That's what I was going to say. 100% it has some merit.
Yeah.
And there are people that have, easily 100,000 hours in some of these things.
Yep.
And that's incredible.
It is.
Some of them are in our backyard. We don't even know about it.
Yeah.
And I love reading the news and hearing about people like Leo Burke.
Yeah.
And then I go on and learn about them more, and more and more and more. And in each passing year, I am more involved and more interested in just like culture of the Maritimes, because I've been here a long time, and I feel like I know a lot, but I don't feel like I know enough.
And every subgenre you fall into here, or social group, will have its examples of people who excelled.
Yeah.
On a global scale.
Yeah.
And that's pretty wild.
Yeah. We live in a cool place, and cool stuff happens here.
And the weather doesn't suck.
We're
very pro here this week.
I am always pretty pro here. And by here, I just mean the Maritimes in general.
Yeah, I know.
I am pro Maritimes.
People, I often check people when they get back from trips, because anytime I travel, and I used to have to travel for previous employment too, and it's like you get back and people will be like, or you talk to people sometimes, they get back from vacation, they're like, back to the thing, and it's like, man, if you vacationed here from somewhere else, you'd realize how great here is.
I've pretty much exclusively vacation. I have been other places for usually, I'll take usually out. I have been other places for competition and volunteer work.
Yes.
I don't travel. I don't travel well.
Okay.
Yeah, vacationing here is incredible. When everyone started talking about staycations, I'm just
on board with that.
I was already now I have a word for this. Yeah, the Maritimes are beautiful. I can sell it to anyone. It's very easy to do. Hey, if you're listening to this and from the Maritimes, hey,
good job.
And if you're listening to this,
wisely.
If you're listening to this and you're not in the Maritimes right now,
maybe come for a visit. And stick around for 30 or 40 years.
Exactly. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. Hey, do you want to listen to a song?
Yeah, man. Let's play some Newfoundland ska, because it's the summer soundtrack, and we can produce
world-class quality ska.
If this was 10 years ago, I'd have made that my ringtone. Here's Baytown. Out of Newfoundland.
was here at the dawn. He's longing for days of change. Away back home, a saving grace. Why do you give yourself the gun? Give yourself the gun. When you know you're not to be trusted. Why do you give yourself the gun? Give yourself the gun. Up here he marches toward the sun. Towards the sun. And now in the distance he heard the church bells ring. And suddenly all around him he heard the voices sing. And they sang, and they sang brighter They sang, and they sang of saving grace. They sang of saving grace. These humans in a haze. Oh, they need some saving grace.
Hey, we're back. That was great. We like Baytown here.
It's the Baytown summer.
We are Baytown fans. Baytown, Bay Summer.
You know, like we were just talking about, like the Maritimes. What's small, Maritimes is super, super small. So
Yes.
in my mind, someone in the greater Tantramar region knows someone who was in Baytown.
Oh, probably.
And they've reached out because they accidentally heard them on our radio
I
show
hope
and were
so.
like, hey, I was one of the 4 listeners to Air Traffic Control the other night,
yeah.
And I heard your tune, and wouldn't that just like be cool to be like, hey, that was a decade ago, but someone's still listening to my jam,
It would be.
or
Hey,
my toe tapper, or
when
my
you-
vibe,
when
or
this
my
eventually
slapper,
gets back,
or my
whatever the other one was. If you're listening to this, Baytown, 1, thanks for making killer jams. And 2,
come to Sappy Fest 2025.
yeah, totally come to Sappy Fest 2025. And 3, we can get you the fast lane to Sappy Fest at atc@midgicairport.com. If you want to email us there, atc@midgicairport.com.
Do we have the power to do that? I suppose we can arrange a flight for them, and that's half the battle.
Well, it's just like I can get
You talk to
the-
people in the know. You've got connections.
It's
Yeah.
easier when you know someone, right?
It is.
Hey, we got some local news, right?
All kinds of local news going on.
All kinds of local news going on. What we actually have? We have the National Music Festival here this week. On Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You can check out Monday and Tuesday are competition days, and Wednesday is the finale. I believe tickets are $25 for all 3 days. You get a pass. It's really good, yeah. It is going to be incredible. You know, I have
Not
seen-
hard to work that down to, like, you could watch 25 hours of music in 3 days.
Yeah.
To be like, I just got $1 an hour for entertainment that's
for some of the best young performers in Canada.
Yeah.
Like, these are all going to be performers that go on and do incredible things.
There you
go. Yeah. So the National Music Festival is here right in Sackville. That's the Federation of Canadian Music Festivals. That, again, is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We also have trivia on Wednesday at Bagtown. That is at 7 p.m. Like always, $2.50 donation at the door, $1 drink. Thursday next week, we do not have trivia.
Dun, dun, dun.
We have karaoke instead. That's at 9:30 at Ducky's. We also have concert in the park on Thursday. That's free, 6:30 to 8 at the Bill Johnston Memorial Activity Center. This Thursday, it is Ricky Francis. And then, hey, do what's, I think, the week after that. No, it's this week, yeah. No, because we're coming out on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what this starting this weekend is?
Is it the Fest of Sap?
It's the Sap Fest.
The sappiest fest in Tantramar?
It's the sappiest fest, man, I'm going to say it, in the world.
Wow.
Do you think there's anywhere that has a sappier fest than Sappy Fest?
It would be a tall order.
It would have to be Sappiest Fest.
Are you prepared?
I'm prepared.
Mentally, physically, emotionally?
I am. Are you?
I don't know.
Spiritually prepared. Hey, we got news.
Yep.
What news are you newsing?
The Isthmus is back in the news.
The Isthmus?
The Isthmus, yeah.
What's the Isthmus saying?
Well, there's been a crack team now locally, which is more Avengers-esque than Guardians of the Galaxy-esque.
Yes, it is.
To try and tell the federal government that, this very thin strip of land that is preventing us from living on waterfront and preventing Nova Scotia from being an island.
Like PEI, yeah.
Is, holding together on a hope and a prayers of 400-year-old Acadian flapper valve technology.
People know this, right?
I think people know this. That the dikes were...
That the reason that Nova Scotia isn't an island is because of
the
Acadians?
Yes.
From
Yeah.
Not yesterday?
Who...
Like pre-expulsion? Like
pre-1755.
Yeah. Like
some Acadians built some land, and then some people came along and said, we want that a lot more than you do.
Yeah, so you need to go make good food down south? I don't think that's the way they worded it.
Yeah, so anyway, they have put together a team. Our mayor.
Yep.
Here in Tantramar.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor.
Black.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The mayor of Amherst.
Mm-hmm.
Our MLAs.
Great.
But they didn't stop there.
Oh.
They got some Acadian and Mi'kmaq representation as well. They formed a team. Mm-hmm. They're going after the Canadian government. Just be like, this is a local problem, but it's also a pretty big you problem.
Yeah.
I mean, the only truly major port of entry for shipping in Atlantic Canada is Halifax.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm sure Belledune, New Brunswick, and Dalhousie would flourish again,
yes, would love the opportunity.
Man, logistically, if suddenly the Isthmus went out, like Halifax, Nova Scotia as a whole, and we as a whole would be very much impacted.
Under the sea. Under the sea.
I didn't say that.
Something. Everything's happy. Take it from me. I'm not going to sing anymore because I don't want to get copyright strike.
We'd say it's for parody. You're allowed to do it in parody. Anyway, so that's my local news. Is that, and not so much that they're doing it, but it's nice to see that it's. I mean, it's government getting behind it, but it's local government behind it. But it's also at least a nod that the Acadians built this, and before the Acadians came along, and depending on whose history you read, they had good, bad relations. Might have been better long term with the the current residents at the time, then ultimately happened.
Yeah.
But at least it's like, hey, we've got a cohesive group here, and all members of this group and all groups that they represent agree that...
And it's a pretty broad group.
Yes.
If you look at that, especially if you look at the MLAs on both sides.
Yes. It's like, hey, we might
Party
not...
on one and independent on the other.
Yeah, we might not agree on everything, but we can all agree that things will be locally if we don't have to suddenly build a second huge bridge.
You're right in the sense that, like, hey, we got 2 levels of government on this already. We got 2 out of 3 levels of government on this already.
Yeah.
Like, the only people that aren't on board is the federal government.
Which I believe, in their defense, did come up with some amount of funding agreement for the future.
Yes,
but it's kind of like the situation where we've kicked the ball down the field, we've kicked the ball down the field, we've kicked the ball into the next field, we've kicked it like out of the playing surface into the woods, and now we're like, whether we get results or not, it's always nice to see people who might otherwise hold divergent views come together to be like, hey, you know what? We can all agree on this, so we're going to work towards this common goal.
I think it's powerful to see so many groups with different interests come together for one thing, to all be like, hey, feds, literally everyone who lives in this area is telling you this is a problem from all political sides. It's probably a decent time to look at it. And from my understanding, the federal government did what? Budget money for us to look at the problem when it becomes a problem, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm glad the federal government has looked at the problem enough to decide that when poo-poo hits the fan, that they're already going to have millions of dollars already sitting there for the relief effort.
There you go. What do you got for the local news?
I'm always a beacon of light and positivity when we talk about news.
Yeah, that's how I describe you to when we're training new staff here at the airport.
Yes. And
in the same way that shipping has lighthouses, air traffic control has ATC Thomas.
Yes. And did you hear about a potential 2% tax decrease on HST by Mr. Higgs, our premier? Only if we elect him again, though. He couldn't do it beforehand. That's my news.
That's your news?
Yep. He promises to lower taxes later if you elect him again. Hey. Or can I give you a suggestion? This is what I would do.
And let me preface this, because I love playing devil's advocate, by saying our province, despite having like quite a bit larger tax revenue in the past few years than ever, is also as indebted as ever. So go on. Not that I support paying huge taxes, but
I will say that this will cost the government approximately $500,000 over 2 years.
Is that all?
Sorry, $500 million.
There we go.
Sorry, $500 million.
Just misplaced that decimal point.
I did, by a little bit. $500 million over 2 years. Now, I would rather that $500 million be put into education and put into infrastructure and put it into hospitals.
Yeah.
That's me. And when you have a government that boasts about, surpluses years after years, and we're boasting surpluses, but our education system is failing, and our healthcare system is failing, and our infrastructure is failing. And after years of being in power, you go, hey, instead of fixing any of these systems, how about minus 2% on HST? I'm just like, how about we just put all those
dollars in
billions that you're apparently saving in your surplus into our systems that are failing. But, you know, if you want all the systems to fail so you can privatize them all, I guess it doesn't really matter. Hey, we got gold stars.
Do we?
I don't know, dude.
I do.
I also have a gold star. What's your gold star?
Man, you know what? It might be the first time I've given it to someone outside of Atlantic, Canada.
Okay, interesting. Yes,
and I don't do it because I support the reasoning or. Well, let me step back for a moment.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. If you were under a huge threat to your person, you might react in a different way than myself, right?
Sure. Fight, flight, freeze.
Exactly. And I think ultimately, like, that's a tough thing to make judgments on a person about.
Sure.
Because at that point, you're reduced in some way to animal instinct. Like, you know, like, it's not the best measure of character for a person.
Absolutely not.
That being said, a gentleman outside of Sudbury, Alberta this past week was out on a bicycle promenade. Came upon a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
The first approach from the grizzly bear managed to block it with his bicycle.
Okay.
The second punched the bear in the nose.
Okay.
And the bear screwed off.
Yeah, good for this guy. This is a guy who beat a grizzly.
And, you know, like, it's just... I guess, sorry. I'm checking. It wasn't a grizzly. It was a black bear. But you're still under a bear attack. And...
yeah.
I don't, you know, it kind of made me pause to say, like, if I was attacked by, and I've run into bears in the woods, not physically run into the bears in the woods, but like come across bears in the woods before. And even if like at a distance, it's like, yeah, that's a pretty powerful animal.
Totally.
Even the black bears we have here, you know, like a 300 or 400 pound black bear is
scary.
Yeah, it's a pretty real animal.
It's a very real
So
animal.
if I was being attacked by it, I'm not sure what approach I would take. I know they can run faster than you, climb better than you, swim better than you.
Yeah.
If I'd already used my bicycle for defense, I'm not sure my second approach would be, I'm just going to line it up and left hook this bear.
Yeah.
But it worked for this gentleman.
I'm glad.
And goodness gracious, man, you're getting a gold star from across the country.
100%, yeah.
Just for punching a bear. A wild bear and getting away with it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good for him.
Yep.
Hey, there's a thing, right? If it's black, fight back.
Yeah.
If it's brown, lie down.
Yeah.
And if it's white... I think it's not white, but there's a swear word in the last one. But the white one, if you come across a polar bear, you're
in a bad way.
Yeah, there's
having a bad day.
There's not lying down, and there's not.
I wouldn't do that.
There's neither.
Just admire the view for the last few seconds of the
trip.
Magnificent creature.
Yes, mine is going to Leo Burke.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have anything else other to say about that. My gold star is going to Leo Burke. Dude has his handprint all over wrestling history, has his handprint all over even the current landscape of wrestling, as still some of his students are not only wrestling, but are champions in some of the biggest promotions in the world, including WWE.
There you go.
Crazy. Hey, have you heard of a show called Live on KEXP?
Yeah, I think they play right after we do here on CHMA FM.
Yes, they do. That's right. Right after our show here on CHMA, we have Live on KEXP. Live on KEXP brings you the very best of world-renowned live in-studio and remote performances. Each week, they bring you a new live session from emerging artists to well-established acts spanning styles, genres, and cultures. They've had everyone, Macklemore and Ryan Lewis, Florence and the Machine, Lumineers of Monster and Men, Alt J, Arctic Monkeys, and many more. You can find the full video of Live on KEXP available at youtube.com/KEXP, including a performance by Nova Scotian band Sloan. Oh, you know, that was from like 2017, I think. Oh. Watched it recently.
There you go. Was it great?
Of course, it's Sloan.
There you go.
As well as a new performance by, they're not Canadian, they're not maritime.
Oh, but
I was looking through recently, and they do have a new performance by killer math rock band, Elephant Gym.
I know what math rock is, thanks to another show here on CHMA.
There you go, yeah?
Odd time signatures.
Hey, yeah, there you go. Yeah, Elephant Gym would 100% be on that.
This isn't my shout out to Radio Rascal, but since it came up naturally, Radio Rascal educated me.
On
math rock.
Yeah.
I was working in the garage one day.
Yeah.
And it came on, and I got an hour of math rock. I feel bad calling it education. It was also entertaining, and there was some
good.
I wouldn't say toe tappers because I couldn't keep time, but you know,
some head bobbers.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Elephant Gym is dope. You can totally check them out live on KEXP or anywhere else, really. Right after that, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. is Black Atlantic, a primarily Black Atlantic-centric podcast, website, and media channel with the goal of bringing Atlantic POC voices to the world, hosted by Clinton Davis and Hilary LeBlanc. You can check them out at www.blackatlantic.ca. Follow them on Spotify and visit their YouTube page. Finally, 9 p.m., we have The Night Shift with Luca Capone, spinning a diverse, adventurous mix of sounds ranging from psychedelic jazz to experimental hip-hop with a heavy focus on Canadian and independent artists.
Yep. Thursday nights, 8 o'clock. You like hip-hop.
I do like hip-hop.
Me too. I like hip-hop. That's why I put a subwoofer in my van.
It's true. There you go.
Just so I could cruise around.
Listen to some hip-hop.
Living dad life. But like Thursdays, 8 o'clock, you can listen to Game of Crush here on CHMA. You're going to get some maritime stuff.
Love it.
You're going to get some Canadian stuff.
Love it.
You're going to get some international stuff.
Love it.
But like, it's the sub-workout hour. Which, you know, sometimes you need.
It is. Hey, as long as there's no Drake, he not like us. We ain't about that here at CHMA or here at Midgic Airport. Hey, thank you for listening. Thank you for CHMA for hosting and broadcasting. You can check them out at chmafm.com and CHMAFM on all of the socials. Check us out at midgicairport.com and visit our merch store. You can also give us a shout out on all the socials at Midgic Airport, except on X, formerly known as Twitter, where we are at Midgic_Airport. Finally, if you miss an episode, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts. Signing off.
Have a great night, folks. We're going to play the folks out with one more tune.
Yeah, we'll play a thing. Here's a thing.